FNMs. Party leader, the Honorable Michael C. Pintard and Mrs. Pintard, parliamentary colleagues, former leader, former Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Hubert Minnis, meritorious council members, party officers, delegates, fellow FNMs, and Bahamians everywhere, good night. First, let me give thanks to Almighty God, who is the great architect of the universe, for giving me the breath and the opportunity to be here this evening. As a fellow soldier, grateful to all of you, it's an honor and a privilege to address this convention. To the people of St. Barnabas, I remain honored to serve you. I wish to acknowledge the presence of my greatest critic, best friend, my confidant, my beautiful wife of 74 days, Nia. It too would be an egregious act of an incalculable magnitude if I did not recognize the presence of the Honorable Maurice Moore, a founding father whose life and life's work, along with other founding fathers, embodied the spirit of true patriotism and immeasurable sacrifice. Sir, we honor you. We are grateful to you and grateful to the other founding founders who have allowed us to drink from the well of prosperity and freedom that we did not help dig. Fellow delegates, I stand here tonight still believing that the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is the greatest nation on earth, and that our party, the Free National Movement's best days are ahead. I remain filled with the audacity to believe that we must cause our politics to lead and pave the way for change rather than let our politics get in the way of that change. And that the future of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, its prospects and its promise must still be shaped and determined by the bigness of our ideas and not the smallness of our politics. Fellow delegates, over 50 years ago, 8 courageous, patriotic, fearless freedom fighters, led by our founding father, the late Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield, moved by the weight of personal conscience and urged by a stubborn conviction to deepen our democracy, protect its most sacred elements, the freedom to speak, to dissent, and lift the voices of the Bahamian people, forge what would become the foundation of this free national movement. This promise of a better Bahamas, this clarion call, this fight is still alive today. And it is in this spirit that I stand before you and together with you, moving forward and united for our cause. In the words of Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield, democracy and truth are hard and demanding taskmasters. So unless we have been sufficiently admonished and challenged by these words of Sir Cecil, our efforts at this convention will miss the mark and fail, and so will the fate of our desires to recapture the confidence and imagination of the Bahamian people at the ballot box. We have been sent back to the political sidelines to rethink, retool, re-engineer, then reapply. This convention is a conversation about the future of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and in so being, it is not a conversation that need be limited to our own ranks, nor is it a Nassau-centric conversation. It requires the involvement of all Bahamians from every island, every settlement, and the execution of our collective efforts as a people. So Bahamians everywhere tonight, we say to you loudly and clearly, we heard you on September 16th. The Free National Movement hears you. Our leader, Michael Pintard, hears you. We got the message loud and clear, and we shall respond. Fellow delegates, our response must consider the historical bookmark of the moment. We are in unparalleled times, extraordinary times, a time for the press by the fallout of a global pandemic, rising gas prices, a strained global supply chain, debilitating inflation, a nationally self-inflicted 10% tax on bread basket items and prescription medicines. The results in real and everyday life terms for the poor and working class Bahamian, rising food prices, emptier cupboards, difficulty in assessing 10% tax medications, compromise health across our population, inclusive of the elderly and the many thousands of Bahamian families dealing with non-communicable diseases, less disposable income, deferred dreams and aspirations. So fellow delegates, in these extraordinary times in our nation's history, we are required to have extraordinary resolve and respond resolutely and proactively to the prevailing issues of the day. Issues, frankly, that the Bahamian people continue to express have evaded us for far too long. So FNMs, as we gather here in this convention, we have a duty not to be oblivious or dismissive. We cannot bury our heads in the political sand. To do so would be political malpractice, but most importantly, a dereliction of duty to the Bahamian people. No government has been re-elected consecutively since the Free National Movement in 1997. I submit it is because the national politics has not sufficiently satisfied the Bahamian people's thirst and appetite for big change and real transformation. The electoral back and forth is a function of the Bahamian people longing for direction from those that aspire to lead and serve. They are pleading for a sustained vision that inspires belief, confidence, and commitment. Fellow delegates, in every generation there is a defining moment, a moment of great clarity and determination where the conscience of a people can no longer bear the burden of unfulfilled dreams and an uncertain future. This is that defining moment. In the wake of maddening and paralyzing surge in violent crime and the fear of crime rising daily, we are reminded that crime will continue to threaten our way of life. We readily acknowledge that crime ought not to be a political issue, but it is incumbent on the government of the day to lay out a strategic plan to mitigate the scourge of criminal activity. There is no denying that the prospect of a better Bahamas cannot be realized without the creation of safer communities and fortifying our national security. Historically, the Free National Movement has had a long-standing relationship with our armed forces and has been consistent in its view, policy platforms, and governmental initiatives that the safety and security of our citizens is no doubt a significant down payment on the future prosperity for our country. Under the Free National Movement, the National Neighborhood Watch Council, inclusive of 152 neighborhood watch groups located on the islands of Abaco, Eleuthera, Grand Bahama, and New Providence, saw major improvements in public safety and received the coveted Leadership in Community Policing Award 2020 by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. This expansive program, along with video integration centers, consistent recruitment in the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Royal Bahamas Defense Force, and the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services, the commissioning of the long-range radar in Inagua in 2019, and the use of the Real-Time Crime Center all placed our national security footing in good stead. Our national security viability and the responsiveness remains an integral and consequential part to creating an even more richly transformed Commonwealth of the Bahamas. FNMs, it is exactly this commitment to progress, change, and the governing legacy of our party that has uniquely prepared us to right-size, refocus, and redouble our efforts to re-enlist the electoral confidence of the Bahamian people. Delegates, we've navigated these waters before. So with a clearly defined vision under the leadership of Michael C. Pintard, our national agenda for real change, fueled by big ideas and the courage to see it through, we can realize a most prosperous future that captures the imagination of the Bahamian people. It is this agenda, this vision, FNMs, that we bring before the Bahamian people at this convention. A vision where we renew the hope, employ proper strategies, change course, and change direction from where we are now. Fellow delegates, we know this can be achieved because throughout the history of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Free National Movement and the Bahamian people have stood side by side, walked hand in hand, and in lockstep. So we say to Bahamians everywhere, the Free National Movement is still with you. Our leader, Michael Pintard, is with you. We will continue to lift our voices in agreement with you, and we will lift our feet in protest for you. The Free National Movement has always been about the Bahamian people. Freedom of expression for the people. Freedom of political association for the people. A better country, a better way of life for the Bahamian people. FNM's our political heritage is rich and legacy of governance is undeniable. The FNM gets things done. History will show when the question is asked, which political party has contributed mightily to the transformation of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas by employing bold, innovative ideas? The answer is the FNM. I ask you, which political party fought against the suppression of the voices of the Bahamian people? Yes, it was the FNM that liberated the national airwaves so that the voices of the Bahamian people will always be heard in holding its government accountable. I ask you, which political party is a true friend of the Bahamian worker and values the contribution to the Bahamian economy? Yes, it was the FNM that established a minimum wage in shorter work week for workers and introduced for the first time ever unemployment benefits under the National Insurance Board program and created the Jumpstart program and strengthened small business development centers that earmark grants for aspiring entrepreneurs. I ask you, which political party fully recognized that a meaningful investment in our youth and their development is an investment in our nation's future? Yes, it was the FNM that ensured increased funding for educational loans to national and international institutions and unveiled the Self-Starter program, enabling young entrepreneurs to start their own business. Fellow delegates, we stand on the platforms of our legislative history and on the shoulders of outstanding men and women who served our country, brought distinction to our party, and illuminated the corridors of Bahamian history. This is the party of the dissident eight. 8 brave men who defied the status quo, stood up and said Bahamians deserved a better future and the right to determine that future. This is the party of our bold, courageous freedom fighter and founding father, Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield, whose call to action resonated in that timeless phrase, free at last, my soul is dancing. This, fellow FNMs, is the party of the Honorable Janet Boswick, the first woman elected to Parliament. This is the party of Rome Natalia Johnson, the first woman elected to be Speaker of the House of Assembly. This is the party, FNMs, of Dame Ivy Dumont, the first woman to serve as Governor General in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Fellow delegates, we want you and the Bahamian people to know that we will not sit down and shut up, but we will stand up and we will speak up. We will stand up and speak up as we echo the voices of the Bahamian people and say defiantly that things are broken and we must fix it. We will stand up and speak up, for we know that we must shore up our social levees and that crime continues to threaten our way of life, economic stability, and deprive Bahamians of the peace and tranquility they deserve. We will stand up and we will speak up because the Bahamian economy lacks the imagination and diversity to ensure sustained employment and prosperity. We will stand up and we will speak up because we agree that public education system in its current state is uninspiring, needs reform, and is not serving our educators and our students well. We will stand up and we will speak up because we agree that the Bahamian cultural identity is under siege, under assault, and has been undercultivated to the detriment of future generations. We will stand up and we will speak up, for we know we can no longer allow the change that the Bahamian people desire to be held hostage to an execution gap, the gap between what they've been told will be done and what actually gets done. It has paralyzed our ability to solve some of our country's greatest challenges. Fellow delegates, in the words of another, we must not just talk, we must act. We must not just promise, we must prove. There is no progress without change. There is no change without sacrifice. Fellow delegates, As I prepare to leave this platform tonight, I look around this convention and I see the faces of our founding fathers, meritorious council members, and freedom fighters whose very lives bear the scars of this movement. I see your faces, you, the valiant gladiators and soldiers who continue to hold the torch high in the cause for democracy, love of our Bahama land, and love of the Bahamian people. It tells us that despite our individual differences, this moment is still alive, that the fabric of the free national movement is strong, and that we've started this convention strengthened by this truth. There is more that unites us than divides us. And we move forward united. Let us rely on this truth and on the words of that ageless spiritual with cords that can never be broken. So FNMs, when our name is called, let us stand and respond with one resounding voice, all together. All together as we join with Bahamians everywhere to bring about real change and transformation to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas under the leadership of Michael Pintard. Yes, all together as we continue to build an opportunity society for all so that we can truly move forward, upward, and onward together. May God bless all of you. May he bless the Free National Movement, and may he continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.